My message is that we'll be watching you. This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean.
Well, I can't say I disagree with that, sweetheart. Maybe if you'd spent more time in school, you could pursue a career in science or engineering and help develop a feasible solution for lowering carbon emissions. But nah, I'm sure an emotional rant delivered to an organization that's never accomplished anything will do more.
Yet, you all come to us young people for hope.
Well, sort of. Political movements all throughout history have been fond of shoving children into the spotlight to try and advance their political agenda. Does the mere fact that children can be groomed to spout political propaganda somehow make what they present true? Or does the person making the claim bear the burden of proof to demonstrate its validity, no matter how old they are? If the former, why do you reject the political positions of teenage Trump supporters like Nick Sandmann? If the latter, then you have an obligation to actually defend the positions you're about to articulate. Give us your best, Greta. Please present the evidence that climate change is about to destroy the planet and propose a feasible solution.
How dare you! You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones.
Well, I can't argue with you there either, Greta. You are one of the lucky ones. You're the child of a professional actor and singer, born in a first world Western nation with an enviable standard of living compared to the rest of the world. I can't really find any information about your parents' net worth, but based on their bios and a plethora of family photos available online, something tells me that you haven't spent a day in your life without food, clothing, shelter, or anything else a child might want. What about your childhood and your dreams has been deprived of you thanks to climate change? How would your life be so much better today if you'd just grown up in a primitive agrarian society with no man-made carbon emissions?
People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you!
Yay! Lots of applause! But again, Greta, just because you're young doesn't mean you don't have the burden of proof to defend your claims. Who are these people who are dying exactly? What ecosystems are being destroyed? When you say mass extinction event, what exactly do you mean? Are we talking asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs? Or half of California falling into the ocean? The thing is, even a cursory amount of research reveals that there isn't a single climate change scientist who believes what you just said. In the words of Dr. Gavin Schmidt, the chief of NASA's Goddard Institute for Space Studies and noted climate change scientist, all the time-limited frames are bull. Nothing special happens when the carbon budget runs out or we pass whatever temperature target you care about. Instead, the costs of emissions steadily rise. The thing to push back against is the implicit framing that there is some magic global mean temperature, or total emissions that separate fine from catastrophic. There just isn't. To be sure, there are scientists who believe that there will be negative consequences if carbon emissions aren't reduced, but no one who has actually read the peer-reviewed studies believes that some sort of mass extinction event will happen if carbon emissions aren't reduced. If you really care about lowering carbon emissions, how about you advocate that governments worldwide roll back economic regulations and pave the way for free market solutions?
For more than 30 years, the science has been crystal clear. How dare you continue to look away and come here saying that you're doing enough when the politics and solutions needed are still nowhere in sight.
Yes, and I suppose you have the solutions, Greta? I just pointed out that your doomsday predictions are rejected by the very scientists that I presume you're resting your claims on. But then you haven't actually cited any scientists or studies yet, so I wouldn't know. But for the sake of argument, let's assume everything you've said so far is correct. How are you helping to solve this problem by criticizing others for not having produced a feasible solution, if you yourself can't propose a feasible solution?
You say you hear us and that you understand the urgency. But no matter how sad and angry I am, I do not want to believe that. Because if you really understood the situation and still kept on failing to act, then you would be evil, and that I refuse to believe.
Everyone who disagrees with me is stupid or evil. The thing is, Greta, whenever a person makes a sweeping claim like that about any controversial issue, it's usually evidence that they think they're a lot smarter than they really are. You say that leaders have failed to act, but what exactly have they failed to do? Failed to outlaw the use of fossil fuels? Failed to bomb the industries in China and India that are responsible for most of the world's carbon emissions? Failed to force everyone back into stick huts and wearing fig leaf loincloths? You can yell about a problem all you want, but it's not going to make a feasible solution just drop out of the sky.
The popular idea of cutting our emissions in half in 10 years only gives us a 50% chance of staying below 1.5 degrees and the risk of setting off irreversible chain reactions beyond human control.
Okay, based on what you just said, I can only presume you're referring to the 2019 IPCC report on climate change. But again, it's clear you don't understand the content of that report. To quote Dr. Kate Marvel, "We don't have 12 years to prevent climate change. We have no time. It's already here. And even under a business-as-usual scenario, the world isn't going to end in exactly 12 years. Look, Earth's climate has been changing for the past 4 billion years. Extreme global warming occurred when dinosaurs were running the place. But then there have also been at least 5 major ice ages. Do you really think that now, in the 21st century, now is the time that the planet has just run out of time? We're all gonna die unless we... Oh wait, that's right, you haven't proposed a solution yet.
50% may be acceptable to you. But those numbers do not include tipping points, most feedback loops, additional warming hidden by toxic air pollution, or the aspects of equity and climate justice. They also rely on my generation sucking hundreds of billions of tons of your CO2 out of the air with technologies that barely exist.
So why are you not in school again? You could be honing your skills as a scientist or an engineer and actually help to create those technologies, Greta. If you knew anything about history, you'd know that cutting-edge innovations like the ones you're referring to come from the free market, not from government.
So a 50% risk is simply not acceptable to us, we who have to live with the consequences. To have a 67% chance of staying below a 1.5 degrees of global temperature rise, the best odds given by the IPCC, the world had 420 gigatons of CO2 left to emit back on January 1st, 2018. Today that figure is already down to less than 350 gigatons. How dare you pretend that this can be solved with just business as usual and some technical solutions? With today's emissions levels, that remaining CO2 budget will be entirely gone within less than 8.5 years. There will not be any solutions or plans presented in line with these figures here today, because these numbers are too uncomfortable and you are still not mature enough to tell it like it is. You are failing us, but the young people are starting to understand your betrayal. The eyes of all future generations are upon you. And if you choose to fail us, I say we will never forgive you.
That face is priceless. But again, Greta, let's assume everything you've just said is true. What exactly are you going to propose? Holding the entire world at gunpoint until everyone goes back to living in stick huts and wearing fig leaf loincloths? Where were those clothes you're wearing manufactured, and what were the carbon emissions required to produce them? Do you know? That solar-paneled sailboat that you traveled across the Atlantic in to get to New York. Do you know where it was manufactured, or whether or not any carbon emissions were involved in that process? We'd like to know. The thing is, Greta, it's clear to me that you're very passionate about what you believe, but have a lot of learning to do when it comes to issues like economics, government, freedom, and science. In the words of Sam Harris, the less competent a person is in a given domain, the more he will tend to overestimate his abilities. This often produces an ugly marriage of confidence and ignorance that is very difficult to correct for. Allow me to be clear about something. Greta Thunberg has the same right to freedom of speech that anyone else does. And while there's a lot that could be said about her age, her family, and whoever might be pulling her strings, I'm really most interested in her ideas themselves. If she really is a global thought leader, then let's take her statements seriously and treat them with the same level of scrutiny that we would anyone else's. Let's demand that she provide evidence for her views and propose feasible solutions that can actually fix the problem. If she's just a child and shouldn't be criticized in any way, then why on earth call her a global thought leader? You can't have it both ways. And to quickly summarize my own views on climate change, let's just say that I'm not a scientist and am therefore unqualified to comment on whether or not climate change is occurring or whether or not it's going to cause any problems at all. What I can say is that if everything being reported is true, history shows that no solution will ever come from the halls of government. It will only come from people seeking to create their own solutions in the free market. And that is my 2 cents. Take it for what it's worth. Thanks everyone for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, as well as hit the bell to receive notifications so that you never miss an upload. And if you're a fan of my channel, please consider supporting me on Subscribestar, Bitbacker, or Patreon to receive special rewards. All links can be found in the About section of my website, my2centsvideos.com.